Good evening, good evening, good evening. Who takes you all the way to the WWE Championship in classic 1980s WrestleMania style, but then does a double heel turn and steals the belt when you're not looking? It's us, American Scouser TV, Thursday night podcast on a sad, sad day. If you're a classic wrestling fan like I am, with the passing of the immortal Hulk Hogan. Although personally, I was an Ultimate Warrior fan, so he was the business. The shoelaces did not survive in my house during those years. They went around my arm. Let's not talk about that incident with the wall paint on the face. That took weeks to come off. I'm only joking. But we have a fantastic lot of stuff to talk about because things are happening, folks, which we will get to. We're joined by Suzy, Kenny, and Brian. How are we, gentlemen?
Doing great. On Cloud Cuckoo Land.
Cloud Cuckoo Land, because here's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about what the transfer news means for the formations we may possibly play. We'll talk a little bit about Darwin Núñez and his hat trick and his new hairstyle. It's something we've talked about on this show before, and it's come to pass, as all these things do. The actual overall feeling about the transfer business so far, because it's been quite fantastic for a start. And then the moral dilemma thing, we've called a Hodgson's choice, so we'll get to that at the very end, where I will give you a moral dilemma that you have to decide on. But let us get started. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. It's whether Roy Hodgson lives in your house forever and ever or not, or you have to listen to Cosy at the dinner table for time eternal. So let us talk about this. We've signed Hugo, correct? Hugo Ekitike. He'll be forever Hugh to me. We have Kerkez. We have Frimpong, we have Florian Wirtz, and it seems like the very real journalistic possibility of Isak as well. I mean, I cannot remember feeling this spoiled as a Liverpool fan when it comes to transfers. But we'll go to Sir Z first. What say you? It's just, I mean, this does not feel like a Liverpool transfer window, does it?
It doesn't, not for a long time. And, again, I think I said this last week when we signed Barnes, Beasley, Houghton, and Aldridge in the same window, and it's like it kind of harks back to that. And if you read Billy Hogan's comments, and he said we are one of the biggest clubs in the world, and now we're acting like one, and it's true. It's like it's just such a win on so many levels. All the FSG out people, they've gone back under the rocks. Everyone else in the Premier League are losing their heads, and we're nowhere near breaking PSR rules either. I think all the football financial specialists have said that we can spend up to 500 million without even touching PSR, and everyone's just losing their heads. And we don't have any state funding. All we did was just keep our pockets tight for the last 2 seasons, showing how the club should be run. We won the league without spending any money. We look back at last season and, Klopp leaving and everyone's rubbing their hands. Liverpool fans, we're crying, thinking, right, this is it, we're done, And we had, Humble Simpson rock up, win the league, bought one player who we didn't use. And, and we won the league with players like Núñez and Costas in our team. And, and now we're just like, okay, now we're going to do this with the world's best players, and it looks like we are creating a dynasty for the next 2-3 years for sure. And we're just bringing fear into everyone. Probably even Real Madrid. You can see how they performed in the World Club Cup, and they thought they got one over on us by taking number 66 and. That no one's even thinking about that anymore. We onwards and upwards in so many levels, and now you can see why Trent and Salah decided they were going to stay in. They kept hinting at, Virgil kept hinting at his interviews post-signing contract. It's going to be big changes, and never. I don't think anyone in the wildest dreams thought this is going to be it. We've signed Germany's best player. Probably now we're going to end up signing Swedish's best player, and now we've got two fullbacks that are just going to just terrorize everyone's defenses, and now everyone's just it's a good feeling to have. Just all these other fans just hating on us for doing things the right way. You're on mute, Macka.
I was doing it telepathically. This is how good our summer is that we're engaged with like Paris. Kenny, I can go back to the Houllier season when he brought in Hupia, and I think Honcho was the same transfer. And I want to say Smeacher was in that one as well. And Westerveld, like it was a big summer of transfers, and you expected the team to take a couple of years to gel, but that's not what happened. It was almost instantaneous success, and there was a sense that for that particular era, we've had a bad time of it, and now Gerard Houllier made these changes, and suddenly there's a sense of optimism. This feels so much different because we're coming from a position of strength. First of all, winning the league, where Aaron is Slot in his first season, but also a squad that was coming from a position of strength as it was in the first place. And the only time I can remember that happening was Kenny Dalglish's first period as manager. And then, that getting Aldridge and Houghton and John Barnes and Peter Beardsley. This feels classic Liverpool to me. What do you think?
Yeah. It really is exciting times. Like you mentioned, worrying about the players gelling in. And I think we did it the right way, where none of these positions am I surprised we're signing people in. You think about Chelsea spending $800 trillion on players in the exact same position. They have 800 forward-ish players who can play 10 and on the wings and etc. If you would ask any Liverpool fan before the season started, what positions do we need to strengthen? Center forward, left back. We need to replace Trent. We could probably use another midfielder. What have we gone and signed? A center forward, a left back, a right back to replace Trent, and the midfielder. It's not like we're forcing these people into our formation that is going to disrupt things. Other than maybe Szoboszlai, I feel like he's unlucky, but I'm not convinced he's going to miss out, to be honest. I don't know what kind of formation we're going to play, but I think he's too important off the ball. But we'll get there. It's exciting, and I think that Slot has proven he can handle a big turnover in the squad as well. I believe, was it 14 new players his second year at Feyenoord, and they won the league. So I think we're strengthening in the right positions. The only one that's a bit odd to me is the Diaz thing. I don't think in a perfect world we would sell him. I think he wants to go, and it's hard to keep hold of a player who wants to go. Take notes, Newcastle, and sell us Isaac on the cheap now.
But when you think about it, though, that one position is one where we don't really have to worry. If we whatever reason lost Salah, I know we've got the contract signed now, but let's say history is a bit different and this was his last year and he decides, now, all right, I'm off. We'd be in a little bit of trouble. But we have Gakpo to play in that position. Wirtz can play in that position. And by the sounds of things, so could Ekatike if we needed to play in that position. If we wanted to take a punt, although miracle of miracles, I do not think this has happened, but Chiesa could play in that position if
Chiesa's gone, unfortunately.
If we could get the United Nations in to figure out what the hell's going on there, they had more chance of doing that, of solving what's going on in the Holy Land than they do figuring out why Chiesa and Arne Slot don't get on. But that's the one position where we probably could, in the attacking positions, we could probably afford to lose a player and not lose any quality. What do you think, Kenny?
Yeah, I agree. I think we're spoiled in that position. You think of all the players who can play off the left. I think I don't think Darwin will stay. But if he does, I could see a world where he plays off the left with, I imagine our wingers will be a little more narrow this year. And that's where he thrived with, was it Benfica? Who did he play with in the Portuguese league? I'm blanking now. But he played
Benfica.
in, okay. So he played it well coming off the left there. Again, I don't think that's going to happen, but I also, from what I've seen and heard, so that's a big fan of Rio. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. The young kid we have, I think he may get minutes this year. Not a ton, but I think having 6 people who can play left wing and keeping the kid who has all this potential out of the squad entirely would be unwise as well. And like you said about Salah, I think Frimpong may get right wing minutes as well, especially during AFCON. I think we're, like I said, we're signing a lot of players, but it doesn't feel like the Chelsea under Lampard scattergun approach where we're signing everyone we can get our hands on. They're very smart signings. They fit into our squad well, and they fill positions of need. I think I'd be a little worried starting the season with no Chiesa, Diaz, or someone who could back up Gakpo on the left wing other than Rio. But I think with, like you said, Wirtz and Ekitike can both play off the left, albeit not maybe their strongest position. I mean, our rotation up to the top end of the field is just, even without Isak, is ridiculous. I've been saying it for weeks now. I feel like I've manifested it. We're getting Isak, I think. I'm more and more confident each day. I cannot wait to pull up the receipts about 0% chance in the Discord and all that. I've been willing this for months now, so you guys can all thank me when Isak comes through the door. It's all me.
Brian, that is a good point. Like, we're not even done. That's the thing. We still have it seems and sounds and looks from clips at least that Konate doesn't have his foot out the door per se. He doesn't seem to have his mind elsewhere. It's probably one of the same things that we were complaining about with Van Dijk and with Salah, in the sense of the negotiations just seem to drag out a little bit. He doesn't seem worried about it. The club don't seem worried about it. So we could maybe rely on Konate being here for another 2 seasons, maybe at least. So I wouldn't say our central defence is set, but if you consider that Gomez, probably, I have a feeling Gomez won't get as injured under Slot as he did under Klopp. I think the training loads are a lot different under Slot than they were under Jurgen. So maybe that'll help him a lot. Gravenberg complained there. We spoke about the back 3 experiment possibility, or at least formation shift. So our moves, it's just so shocking how clinical and precise our transfer moves are. We've all given FSG, and I've particularly given Michael Edwards a lot of stick, and I think occasionally it's very well earned. But Richard Hughes is thrown out to be one gorgeous bastard of a transfer head honcho, isn't he?
And here we all thought he was sitting on the beach and hanging out all for like the past year and so like that. It looks like he was doing a lot of undercover work. But yeah, I mean, I still think we're one center back short. I mean, even with Konate staying there, I think we're one short. I mean, I adore Gomez. I think Gomez is a great player, but again, this is so you have to go by the record on here. So I would say basically on here that that I would go in there and say we need to go out there like a younger center back, and I'll go back Honcho. I'll go back with a name like that from Ajax, somebody in there who can actually go and who can work his way through there, because I don't think Nalo is ready yet to take that position, and I don't think that that Stevenson, who played in that position in the friendly right there, is actually going to be is ready to play in that position either. So I think that you have to go for anyone. As far as like what Sadu just talked about, I agree 100% right there. I'm not. Diaz frustrated me all last season for a lot of things. Not saying that he's talented right there, but I also say right there that if we bring Isak in right there, and it's like, again right there, it's very encouraging hear these words on here. But I would say on here that Ikitaki could go there and play on that left side right behind it. And I said like this for the past couple months. Everything is pointing toward formation change. I mean, and it's going to happen right there. I mean, I don't think we need a left wide player anymore. I don't think that's a necessary element with this because you have Kirkes back there playing left wide, playing wide. And same thing as you don't need a wide left right on the right side because you have Frimpong on there and you also have Bradley that can make those runs. So I do think that we're going to be more narrow. And I think that in that middle part, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be pretty incredible right there with if we bring Isak in. And again, I've had my reservations about Isak right there. I mean, I've said on here like last week and a week before last, but I think that we can basically have him if we can get him in here. I think that you have enough rotation in that front right there that it's dangerous no matter what you play. I mean, with on sides, you can go out there and move people around here. I've seen Isak come out there and play a little bit down off the striker before. So you got different things that you can do with us right there. But yeah, I mean, Hughes is getting the A+ right now for me. I mean, he's rocking it.
So see, Brian mentions formations there, and there's a lot of questions. Brian's convinced of a formation change. I think it's going to be a lot more Italian, almost, as in horses for courses, like a main formation and a few changes around here. So just let's look at this one little graphic here that I managed to pull together before we went on air. And this is assuming Isak doesn't come to Liverpool, but in our normal 4-2-3-1 kind of 4-3-3 half formation, Kerkez, Frimpong, Van Dijk, Kanate, Alisson in goal. Gravenberg is the 6, McAllister as the box-to-box at this point. Wirtz is the 10, Gakpo as the 11, so to speak. Salah, who's 11, as the 7, and Ekitike as the 9. I mean, there's nothing shoddy about that formation there really with those players, is there? If we just plugged players into the formation we used last year, we're looking pretty damn strong, aren't we?
Yeah, and I think Slot's shown his in-game management. We're changing constantly, and we saw that at Fulham when Robertson got sent off. I think we changed our formation 6 times in one half, and as obviously as much as we all love Klopp, we had one formation, and it was like, okay, this is how we're playing. It's up to you guys, up to the opposition to control us. And I think we've come so far away from that now, and it's, I think you've alluded to before, Macka. It's like a combination of Houllier, Rafa, and Klopp all in one, where the game management, like you have to respect the opposition, and Nottingham Forest have shown that. To Slot's detriment, like, where he can't sleep at night because I think it's the only team that we didn't beat last season, and the fact that we can change formations within the game, and again, it's not about your first 11 anymore. It's about your first 15, and it's not who starts; it's who finishes, and even if it's like doesn't join, the squad is so strong from kickoff to last minute of the game, assuming that we don't get any huge injuries. It's just like I said, it was unfathomable at the beginning of the transfer window that we would spend so much money, and even I had my doubts on Isak as well, only because of his injuries and the type of money that was being thrown around. But even if we spend 150 million, like, it's not at the detriment of buying someone else. There's no opportunity cost. We just basically splashing the cash, and it doesn't matter. I think we do need a centre back, and I think that the fact that the urgency seems to have kind of been watered down with buying a centre back. So I think that probably means that Kanate is staying, and we might get Gay next season for free. Or it just doesn't seem like a paramount thing right now, as much as getting the forwards in. And it's, again, all we have to do is outscore the opponents. And even mine and Brian's blood pressures probably won't be able to take it. I'm good with that for the moment. We do obviously do need cover in the back with Quasar going and Gomez. You really haven't seen the best of Gomez since 2019. So we don't know what his injury is going to be like, and I don't think we have enough youngsters coming in to be able to cover. But like I say, it doesn't seem like there's that big urgency for buying a centre back, which tells me that Konate is probably going to stay, and Gomez is going to be the cover.
Kenny, Saidu made a point there. I'll just bring it back up again about Gakpo can do Kerkez can do all the running, so you can make more crosses. Now, here's the thing that I didn't realize, and I think it's on the Discord channel, which everybody should be a part of, as well as liking and subscribing on all the different social medias, following everything we do. So, when things are happening, Ekitike is like 6'4" or something like that. He's a rather tall chap. So we're sitting here talking about formation changes, but do you think the fact that Ekitike is so tall means there might even be a slight shift in how we send the final ball in? We're so used to the final ball being a ball ahead of or into the feet of Salah and letting him work his magic and then picking off the scraps that come from that. Or using Salah as a foil to get somebody else in, or into like Diaz for a long shot, or whichever way that worked out. But despite his height, we've never used Darwin Núñez as a header of a ball. But this guy is tall. He's almost like Niall Quinn with skill. For anybody who's old enough to remember Niall Quinn, a beautiful player, but not the most skillful, but a very good goal scorer with his head. Do you think that might indicate a slight shifting to using more crosses instead of everything being on the ground all the time? So we introduce that little bit more unpredictability to the final ball.
That's exactly what I was going to say, the unpredictability element. I think, and not that, I mean, clearly we walked the league last year, but it wasn't like teams didn't know how we would try and score. Little outside the foot ball from Mo around the corner, or he cuts back on his left and hits that back post cross. Usually Gakpo is good about finding that. But I think the old school, almost Klopp-esque bombing fullbacks will be big for both Gakpo and Salah. They're not the touchline hugging, beat your man, whip across in wingers. They're cut inside and play from there. I think just having the threat of Frimpong and Kerkez down both wings will free them up to where they have to respect that, outside of the play. Like, let's be real. We know what Salah wants to do, which I say, and yet for 7 years now, no one's been able to stop him from doing it. But he wants to cut inside on his left foot every time. But the fact that he has Frimpong going past him means they can't just sit on his left foot. He has that option to make that ball. And then despite Núñez being a taller, bigger physical player, he was a horrific header of the ball. Especially
to be fair, that goes with being a horrific kicker of a ball as well.
Hey, I love Darwin. I'm fully back on the Darwin train. He scored 3 goals against Stoke. He is back.
It is the Thursday night crew.
It's the haircut. No. But I mean, I will say he did pretty good job defensively, winning headers and on defending corners. But hey, let me backtrack. He won quite a few headers. None of them were anywhere close to the target. Where Jota was 5'6", 5'7". He could win headers with anybody. I think that is something we've lacked as a threat. If it's not Trent whipping a ball behind the defense and having someone run onto it, it was never he must not be named whipping a ball behind the defense and having someone run onto it. It wasn't like we had anyone getting up and competing for headers a lot of the time, unless it was who was it that scored it was McAllister with the header. Like if we're winning headers with 5'5", 6, 7 players in the box, I mean, he doesn't have to jump. He can just sit there and let it bounce off his head. I think it definitely gives us, and this is what I'm saying about the formation too. I don't know what we're going to play. No one seems to be able to tell us what we're going to play. We have all these different options. I think that's a great problem to have. If we're obviously not as smart as Premier League coaches, but we are all pretty avid fans of the league and the team. I don't know what we're going to do.
I don't know. Sam Allardyce is a Premier League coach. I think we're pretty much as smart as him, at least.
Well, yeah, me, Big Sam. It goes me, Big Sam. No, but the fact that we have so many options, we have so many players that can play so many different roles across the field and act in so many different ways. So we could set up defensively with Robertson and Gomez at right back and sit back. We could, there's just so many things we could do. So many different players, so many different like strengths. I think the fact that we can play in multiple different ways with multiple different players in multiple different positions gives us a lot of fluidity that, like Sir Z said, we lacked under Klopp, despite him being a tremendous manager. It wasn't like they couldn't figure out what we were going to do. The way to beat Klopp was to sit back, stack the box, and hope we can't score and get one on the break. Whereas it's not as easy as that, unless you're Nottingham Forest. It's not as easy as that against Slot. And I think this even gives him more options to go to. The only thing that worries me, that formation you showed earlier, is if Frimpong and Kirkhouse are both up the field, I do worry about us getting broken or counterattacked with not a lot of, there's no Fabinho to mop up. That's where I think Szoboszlai might play a bigger role. I don't know where it is, but he's the running power in that team. I think we would miss him with both fullbacks up the field, if that makes sense.
Well, do you not think, though, that in that sense, like that, as Kazi kind of spoke about a while ago, controversially and misunderstandingly, as happens in text, Gravenberch will sit back and Van Dijk and Konate will split the field on either side, which is like an old-fashioned way of playing a back three. But with Gravenberch a bit more advanced than a sweeper back in the days of the sweeper. Because it's not fluid. Like I might like looking at the diagrams and all that, but I'm sure we all know formations are fluid. They're in the moment of things, So we should be looking at what can the players do something like that, shouldn't we? That would be the real question: is can we trust Konate to go out and defend like a fullback for 10 seconds while the team is recovering? Would we all agree that's actually probably true, except he's probably going to give a foul away, but at least he's going to slow the attack down. Van Dijk can certainly play almost like a temporary right back, and the real question will be how Gravenberch can hold the middle and what happens if he's not there.
And that's my concern. I have nothing. Well, I guess I do, because I'm about to. I was going to say I have nothing negative to say about Gravenberch, but he's an incredible ball player, and he's better than you'd think defensively. But I think that comes less in transition and more in our shape, where he's good at when the teams have the ball, knowing where they're going to try and pass it to and cutting that out. He has very long legs. I'm worried about, you get 3 attackers running at him. Let's call it Arsenal. Saka, Martinelli, they're not slow. They're going to play quick. They're not a counterattacking team, but in just for this example, even if we have the 3 back there with Gravenberch sitting, I'm not sure that shape is going to be secure enough. And again, I'm sure Slot has thought of this. It just concerns me. If they play a ball over the top along the touchline, who's there? I think of Szoboszlai, and I mentioned this before. I'm not sure if it was on here or one of the morning shows, but I like the idea of Sabo in like a Henderson role, where he was like that right-sided 8 who kind of sat and covered for Trent as he moved forward. He has the running power for it. I know everyone isn't the biggest Szoboszlai fan. I really like him. I think he's a good player. I think he gives it all for the team. I have a hard time saying anything negative about him. I just think Gravenberch isn't the quickest, and I would be worried about him stopping the counterattack by himself. But again, I'm sure Slot has thought of that. That's just my only concern with when I think of both fullbacks pushing up so high.
Brian, let's just look at that formation one more time before we move on to another one. This is what we pretty much have played under Slot. Not quite a 4-3-3 in the Klopp sense, but you're convinced of a formation change. Do you think if we hedge our bets, it's probably going to be more accurate to say we're not going to see that formation as much as we saw it last season?
I don't think so. I mean, I really think that we're going to have two attacking midfielders slash left attacking midfielder and a right attacking midfielder with a focal point on there, especially if we get Isak right there, which means that will probably be a Salah and Ikataki playing behind him, with Verts coming there and playing right behind them, and then you're basically in front of that you'll have a layer of McAllister and Gravenberch, and then you'll have your back four. I said on Discord right there, I think that there's a couple people right there who are going to probably have trouble, and I mean I kind of disagree a lot with what Kenny said right there. I don't see where Szoboszlai fits in as much with this, because yes, he's a runner, but I already have a runner right there with Frimpong and Kirkes. So why do I need a runner in the middle right there when I already have, especially if we actually draw our offense in a little bit more to give the wings those as more of a wing back right there on both sides. You don't need a runner to have that position. The other person right there, I think that may be trouble with this could be Cody right there also with being on that left attacking midfield. I think that which is why Diaz is also a person who's kind of easy to come to and move on. Because if you have Ikataki back there playing back behind Isak right there, you have your two strikers through that point right there. I mean, you can mold yourself into a 4-4-2. You can mold yourself out into a 3-5-2. I mean, there's so many different formations you can do that you can play off of this, off of a 4-2-1-1-2. It's kind of like a situation, or even that with coming there and having a box midfield. There's lots of different things you can do with this right here, which I think that Slot is looking for formation changes. We already saw that what happened in the season right there, where he played with the formations, especially in the second half coming out, where it wasn't as rigid as we saw with Klopp right there, where we basically played a 4-3-3 until you die for the most part. And I don't think they're going to see that situation right there with this side. But I mean, again, I really think that you're going to see more. I think Verts is a player who's going to be a more free role, because I mean, if you're signing a number 10, then you're signing a number 10 to come through actually do what a 10 does. I mean, to be a playmaker, and that's what he is. He's going to be a playmaker, and so you don't need to have him drawn down. We saw Szoboszlai in that same position, and we didn't get the same results right there as far as passing wise, and also shot selection right there was a lot less. Shooting outside the box constantly right there instead of actually looking for the extra pass and the extra play. I mean, it's like kind of like the things that we wanted off of Coutinho a couple of years ago, where he saw that movement and looked for vision. And I think that Verts is that type of player. And that's why I think that we're going to have that we're not going to be in a 4-3-3 anymore, because it doesn't suit the money you spent on Verts.
Because I prepared for this, you see, the fantasy when we have Isak, and here's what it looks like to me would be Salah and Verts as the two number 10s almost, and Ekatike and Isak being the forwards. McAllister, like you could see a case for Szoboszlai rotating in when Gravenberch, because we know Gravenberch tires out fairly easily. That maybe McAllister takes over in that role and Szoboszlai comes in as the box-to-box man. Look, if we got Isak, I mean that's pretty damn scary, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there's so many. Again, like I said right there, you can drop yourself into a 4-4-2 right there and still come there and be able to do this. You can drop yourself in so many different formations right there to go do it. I just don't see where a 4-3-3 can be utilized anymore. I mean, because I think that both Nunez and Diaz aren't going to be here in a couple of weeks. I mean, so that just leaves you right there with Cody on there, and Ikatake and Harvey, who's probably not going to be here. Rio right there, who could actually play in that same position as a left attacking midfielder. So it's going to gear toward that, toward having that. Again, you don't need width up front when you have width in the back.
So in that like dream scenario there, when if we do get Isak, I'm thinking, because we're from the same era. I'm thinking back to the one season where we had Ian Rush, half a season I think it was actually, Ian Rush and John Aldridge and Peter Beardsley and John Barnes and Ray Houghton, and when he was fit, Craig Johnson, I think, for a bit. And we also still had Ronnie Whelan, and we also still had Steve McMahon, and we had Jan Moby, and we had Steve Nicol. I mean, it was an embarrassment of riches, not to mention Hansen at the back of, and we did have Houston then for a while, but Gary Ablett as well, and Gary Gillespie. It was a team that you knew walked onto the field, and the other team had to be at 101% just to stand a chance of drawing, unless Liverpool went out arrogantly, 88 Cup final. But I mean, that's what we're looking at here, isn't it? It wasn't the fact. Look, I mean, that was a very flexible Liverpool team, and people who are not old enough to know that team, or who weren't kind of thinking about it at the time, don't realise that we played like a 3-5-2 before it was a thing under Kenny Dalglish, with a sweeper now, to be fair. We played 4-4-2, we played 4-3-3, like the very basics of those formations before we got all subtle with our half spaces and stuff like that. But that was the golden age, I think we can all agree, for anybody who grew up in the 80s, for Liverpool football. Not just the club, but the football we played, leading to that 5-0 over Nottingham Forest, which was considered one of the best, or the best club performance up to that point. It's almost spine-tingling and goose-bumping how good this team could be if all the elements fall into place, and the amount of formations we could play to damage teams. What do you think?
Yeah, and back then we were only like 2 subs, wasn't it? 2, maximum 3 subs.
3,
so,
I think.
It's. I mean, since then, I think the best ever football I've seen was, I think the 2020 season when we won the league, and with Mane, Bobby, and Salah, they were just unplayable, unstoppable, probably the best 3 in the world. And then you look at this team, and we haven't even spoken about Curtis Jones. I mean, where does he get in? If we're looking at pecking order of midfield, Gravenberch, we know Slot loves Gravenberch. He's not going to play the first game of the season. That's for I guess Szoboszlai to step up and try and make that position his. But you look at the pecking order, Jones is behind Szoboszlai, in my opinion. So it is an embarrassment of riches, and it's. I'm looking at Isak and I'm like, my eyes like behind my hands. It's like, who else are we going to sign? It's getting embarrassing now, and it's like we're playing FIFA with a cheat code, and even without Isak, it's we're already favourites to win the league, and that doesn't really matter. Bookies and pundits, half of them don't even know what they're talking about anyway. They all discounted us last season, but you look at strengthening from a position of strength compared to last season when we really didn't buy anyone. You can't really count Chiesa in that because he absolutely made no positive difference to that team. And we walked the league, we won it, and in the last 4 games we just stole it. We probably could have won the league by 18 points, and without even coming out of second gear. Then to add the type of players we've added, Wirtz, I thought that was it. But then now we're talking about Ekatika, we're talking about Isak, it's just teams are just going to be scared to come up to Liverpool, and the teams that we struggled against last season, like Forest, who really haven't really strengthened. You look at Brentford, who I think up until today, I kind of disagreed with Kenny. I think Kenny said they're probably one of the favourites to go down. I think if they lose Wisa, I think almost definitely they're probably going to go down. Man United. They're just the joke club. I don't even see Arsenal finishing in the top 4 or 5, despite signing Gikeres. So it's really between us and City. Newcastle, for all the money that they have, it's useless. It's like having a Ferrari but not having the keys to it. Like it's that I know they don't need to sell to buy, but they technically do to self-generate that money. And then who wants to go to them? They've had 25 players reject them, and that's it. There's no appeal to Newcastle, and if Isak does leave, there really is no appeal. And I think if Isak leaves, I think they'll have a domino effect on the rest of the team. Tonali probably going to want to leave. Gomes is probably going to want to leave because, without them goals that they're going to get from Isak, they're going to struggle in the Champions League and the Premier League. It is almost embarrassing, but it's been a long time. It's great karma. We've gone from watching Gillett and Hicks almost take our club into administration, and now we're here like sitting pretty. And the best thing about it, we don't have to watch over our backs. We don't have to worry about FFP. We don't have to have you're a state-run club and you've bought the league. No, we were just smart. We had smart owners. Richard Hughes, for all the crap we gave him last season, is just almost a genius. And even with the Ekitike deal, it's similar to what we do with Diaz. We waited for Spurs to make that final move. We waited for, who did we buy Diaz? If I can't remember. We waited for them to accept Spurs' bid, and then we came in last minute and took it, and that's what we did with Ekitike. It's just genius moves, and yeah, it's we're going into a new season not having to worry. It just feels almost like, I don't know what to do with these feelings.
Kenny, now I know you're a golf man. I despise the sport with every fiber of my being, but that's more to do with the fact that my father made me watch it, because my father was a huge golfer and golfing fan, and a very good amateur golfer he was. But I just couldn't. I just had not enough pace for me to get involved in it. But me and the wife, Mrs. Macka, have been watching the Apple TV show Stick. I don't know if you know or if you've been watching it. It's quite funny. It's quite good. But one of the things, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody because it is actually a genuinely good, feel-good show. But one of the ideas is the main character thinks outside of the box, so he has to get the ball to a particularly hazardous, through a particularly hazardous fairway to a hole, and then goes via another hole altogether, another fairway, which is apparently legal. I don't know whether that's true or just for the show, but it's a thinking outside of the box concept. Now we know Slot is not Jurgen Klopp. We know he doesn't think in very straight lines. There has been no better description of Jurgen Klopp's football than heavy metal football. I'm not a massive fan of heavy metal in the week that we've lost Ozzy Osbourne. But what we can say about it is it's very direct and straight ahead, and you know what you're getting. But underneath, it's incredibly technical. That it might go off two riffs for an entire song, but they're very complicated riffs. You want to, if you're a guitar player, you're going to want to practice to get them right. But the concepts are quite easy. Where Slot seems to be almost a little bit more like alternative trip hop or something like that. There's always a little bit coming out of left field. So in the spirit of that show, Stick, and in the spirit of like doing things a little bit differently, do you think that our transfer business so far, the fact that we're sitting here talking about, I'm pretty sure, and I'll pull one up here like as an option, because I know Dutch coaches come up with 4-3-3 and 3-4-3 being their main formations that they work their tactical principles and playing principles through. But there's I have midfielder there. I should have put that as Gravenberg. It's Gravenberg in the centre half. There's even a case to be made for a 3-4-3 if we got Isak. We had Ekitike playing on the left, Wirtz as a box-to-box, McAllister. I mean, that's a very adventurous formation. That's like almost like that's Johan Cruyff, what you call it, 1990s Barcelona. Total football Barcelona thing. Or Louis van Gaal 1995 Ajax 3-4-3. But the fact of the matter is, if we're able to put 3, 4, 5 different formations up, And we know that Arne Slot's a very lateral thinker compared to Jurgen Klopp. If I'm Mikel Arteta, if I'm Pep Guardiola, if I'm Eddie Howe, you're not looking at Liverpool's trophy-winning season, the championship last year. You're not looking at that Premier League as a one-off, really, are you? You know this guy's looking for solutions to everything the league can throw at him. What say you?
Yeah, like you said, we've put up three wildly different formations, and I can see how all of those work with the players we have. Not even counting the depth we have. Your Curtis Jones, who can play probably that attacking midfielder all the way down to the holding midfielder, and even off the left. That's where he came up as a academy player, I believe, as a left wing. Not again. I don't. I hope I don't see Curtis Jones playing as our left striker at any point this season, but it can happen. Um, like you said, we won the league, and we are completely revamping our forward line, our midfield, and our defense. Mainly the wing or the fullbacks, but it just shows that we're not resting on our laurels. We're winning where we want to win the league, Champions League. Let's go for the quadruple, whatever it may be. And Slot said that the first thing he said about what his goals were was to outdo what we did the last season when we came in third and narrowly missed. And what did he do? Just that. He not egotistical, but he's confident and he's smart. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He wasn't the sexy option for a manager, but clearly FSG knew what they were doing and picked the right guy. I mean, I'll be the first to say I didn't think we were going to win the league last year before the season started. I didn't know what to expect with Slot. Didn't watch a lot of Feyenoord games. I'm not going to pretend like I did. He was highly rated, obviously, and he won a league that's usually dominated by like your bigger teams in the Dutch league. But I think I said it before. I'll repeat it. But the fact that we can't figure out what formation we're going to play, and we have all these formations to offer, and even if we start with your 4-2-3-1 or your 4-3-3 or your 3-5-3 or whatever it may be, who's to say we don't change that 3-4 times in the game, especially with 5 subs. Um, there's just so many options we have. I think that's the best part of what we're doing in this window is we're giving ourselves options all around the field. Um, Again, it comes off winning the league too, so it's hard to have anything negative to say. And then we talked about it earlier, but the Isak thing, I really do think. I think we do get him. I do at this point. The fact that he came out and says, "Hey, I'm not going on the tour with you guys. I want to leave." You don't say that if you don't know someone's in for you. Otherwise, you just burn the bridge and ruin your relationship with the fans and the club that you're at. There's no way he doesn't know someone is willing to pay for him, right? In my mind, the only team I can think of other than Liverpool and maybe a Saudi team would be PSG, but I don't see them doing that move. So I've been saying I want it to happen, and I think there's a chance. I think it happens now. I'm over the line. I think it's happening, and I think that just opens up so many options for us up top, and it reduces. I mean, it's hard to say reducing a risk of a 130 plus million pound player, but a lot of the issues people had with the Isak signing wasn't that Isak isn't good enough or he wouldn't give us enough. It was he's a little injury prone, and if we're spending that much money, it likely means we'll have to cut costs elsewhere. Now that it seems pretty evident we aren't going to have to do that, I feel like the downside to the Isak signing is gone. You think about the knocks he takes, and he misses a few games a year. We have Ekatike. If Isak's fit, we have both. I mean, that's just such an embarrassment of riches. It's like your prime Man City teams. Not to relate us to the enemy per se, but think about when they had Sterling, Mahrez, Grealish, whoever. They had 3 world class players for each position almost, and we're getting to a point where we are looking like that. I think at this point in time, that's kind of what you need to compete on all fronts when you're playing, 70 games a year. You need world-class or high-quality players in each position and world-class and high-quality backups for each position. I think that's what we're filling out our squad with. Sorry to some of the people who aren't quite up to it. Again, I love Harvey Elliott. I just don't see where he fits in. I love Luis Diaz. He's always given it all for the team. If we can improve on him, I'd trade Diaz for Isak in a heartbeat. I think Slot's ruthless enough to make that call. I think that's where he's going to hopefully lead us forward. And that, hey, I want to win. This is how we do it. Trust me, and we'll see. I think I have a hard time being pessimistic about this season, and I've been pretty good at being pessimistic in the past. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful, and I'm excited.
Let's move on a little bit. Now, Brian, we are the two longest-serving members of the Thursday Night Podcast crew, and our distaste for Darwin Núñez is legendary at this point. But in a week where Marcus Rashford goes to Barcelona, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, albeit on loan. It's for him, that's a good redemption arc, and it's a good two fingers he can stick up to Manchester United. My question to you is there a redemption arc this season for Darwin Núñez? He's already started quite well in the friendly against Preston. We've joked about haircuts. I've long had a thing about haircuts, even when I coached, because I didn't like players getting haircuts halfway through the season. It just something happens, and it's basically because it literally the opposite thing happened to me. I used to have very long hair when I had hair, and I played at that time was 13, 14. Yeah, 13, 14. It was like down here to here, like proper like Jim Morrison style hair. And I played left wing or right wing. And I got a haircut once, and it was nearly a buzz cut, not quite a buzz cut, and it just felt so light all of a sudden. And I played one of the best games I've ever played the week after I got the haircut, in a friendly, of all things, of course. But there's just something like almost a refreshing new mentality or something like that goes with a new haircut. So we can attribute it to the haircut that he's had. It's very severe. Pardon me. Is there a redemption arc for Darwin Núñez at Liverpool this season, or are we all consigned to him leaving and that he's not part of Slot's plans at all?
Well, okay. So I've never been one person to not knock Darwin for trying. I mean, he gives it all on the pitch. I give that to anybody right there with him. The problem is, he doesn't do the thing that we talked about on this show of being the longest serving people. He doesn't score goals. I'm sorry. I mean, that's your job right there through there. I mean, even Bobby right there, who we actually had a person more of a playing link up play and going all the way to the half touch line right there, still scored goals. I mean, and that's our problem right there with him. Is there a redemption thing? I think there's more of a redemption right there if he stayed this club than Diaz is. I mean, I think I would rather have Darwin on the left, on that left offset of Ikatake or Isak right there than I'd have Diaz there. So I mean, but I don't think either one's going to be here. I mean, I really don't think. I think that Núñez days are numbered when we came there and saw how many his minutes toward the end of the season. I definitely think that we're basically going to go and see both of them move on. I think that the Bayern Munich deal is going to happen with Diaz. I mean, we're only a couple million off right there making this agreement right there. And I think if we get to the point where Isak is a logical solution, then Diaz is gone. I think the player right there just trying to figure out what to do with right there is going to be Núñez, because I don't know whether he wants to go to Saudi or not. And I think that's the one thing where we have to actually go and look at and try to figure out where he wants to go to. The Napoli deal right there was so underwhelming. I mean, it didn't even make sense right there to sell him. But I mean, even listening on Monday night with what Gally was saying that there was, if Darwin does stay here and this next season and he does play a bit part role, we're not going to lose money off of it. So I mean, it makes sense right there either way across. I mean, to not even force the issue if we had to. I think that Diaz right there is a more logical player to move on than Nunez, but I think both of them will be moved on in some capacity.
Let me throw this at you, Brian, before I move to Susie, because it shocked me when I found this out looking at the numbers. Darwin Núñez's shots on target to goals ratio is almost as high as Mohamed Salah's. Unfortunately, Darwin Núñez's shots to shots on target ratio is bloody horrendous. So if he could just get all of his shots on target, we wouldn't need Isak. He would be the leading number 9 in European football. It's just that there's so much waste there in terms of when he gets the ball. And that's the real problem, isn't it? It's not the talent, and it's definitely not the work rate or the heart. We've said that even as we stabbed him in the back numerous times on this show every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with regularity. He fights for the team. There's literally sometimes fights for the team. But that efficiency, that's what kills you, isn't it? As a number 9, you can have the talent, but if that talent isn't being seen regularly, week in, week out, or every second game, I think is the standard for an elite striker, scoring an average of a goal every 2 games. You're on a hiding to nothing, really, aren't you? So the question really remains from that I'm asking is: do you think he can get that here at Liverpool, or is he a lost cause with that? Like the shots on target to goal efficiency, great. Shots to shots on target, high skill level.
He's not getting it here. It's not happening here. I mean, I think again, right there, it goes back to. I mean, I think he's a class act. I mean, as far as the way he acts and all that. But the problem is, it goes back to business is brutal. And the thing is that if your job right there is to actually go there and to score goals, and if you don't score goals, you get moved on. I mean, it's simple. I mean, it's a simple solution. I mean, we've had players here right there who we thought were going to be we're going to be actually immaculate. Sean Dundee. I mean, things like that. I mean, players that you thought were going to come in here and just and mop the league up right there and turn into nothing right there. I mean, I think we had the same faith in Darwin right there when we saw his work rate and what he did when he was in Portugal, and I don't think we got what we paid for. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, and so it's to a point right there where you have to say, okay, where do you go out there and cut your losses in this right there? Again, like I said, if we go out there and move him next year, it still won't be a loss to us right there, and for the cut price that we can go in and send him on. But I mean, I think the problem is right there is where can you get him? I mean, I think with all our add-ons and stuff like that, he was supposed to go up to close to 90 mil. I mean, I think if I'm correct. I mean, have we got a 90 mil player out of this? I mean, I'd go toe-to-toe with anybody and say there isn't a 90 mil player out there. I think it was the way the market was inflated, and we went ahead and played it. So, I mean, in my opinion right there, I mean, you have to go out there and move him.
Susie, what do you think, Núñez? I mean, Jamie thinks there's a chance for him. I would like there to be a chance for him because, players who give a crap, as we saw at Man United for the past 2 or 3, 4 seasons, they're not. We can't take that for granted, and he definitely gives a crap about what's happening, and you can see his frustration at times. If he could convert the energy into goals, it's a win-win for everybody. But do you think, even from his point of view, that he may be too damaged at this point, and he may see his future away from Liverpool regardless?
I mean, the sentimental part of me is like Kenny and Jamie, and you see some potential there. And when he turns it on, I think definitely for the last couple of seasons, it's probably given me my best moments. The Newcastle game where he come on, scored 2, the Brentford game, where I almost broke my ankle just jumping around like a nut job. And no other player recently, other than Divock Origi, has given me them emotions. So I think I'm kind of biased in that sense. I think if we get Isaac, the writing's on the wall for Darwin, haircut or no haircut. And if I was Darwin, I'd push for a move out because he's not he's not displacing Isaac or Ekatike. That's for sure. I think if we're playing FIFA, yeah, obviously you keep him on the bench, knowing that you can bring him on, but I think it's unfair to keep him, thinking that should Isaac get injured or should we need something that he's going to come on and be this bit part player. I think out of the two, given everything that's happened, I think we can live more without Diaz, just because we have Gakpo. And we do have Ekatike, who has played on the left for Frankfurt a few times this season. And that's how I think it's going to be played out. I think Ekatike could be played on the left with, Isaac playing down the middle. Nunes is just such a conundrum. He can see he's got all the potential in the world, but then, you saw the press conferences with Slot last season, and, he was saying, it's fair enough, you're not scoring, but your attitude has to be right. And despite that, he still continued to play Nunes above Chiesa. So Chiesa is just a complete. I really don't know what the issue is there. I think squad-wise we're better for having Nunes in the squad than without him. But if you do get Isaac, then the writing's on the wall, and we just have to kind of like force him out politely, say, look, it's better for your career just to move on. And I don't think the Napoli thing was ever a thing. Italian clubs have this, just notoriously just wait to the last second until clubs are just desperate to sell and, get him on a bit part price, but we're not playing that game. We know Saudi want him. We know Saudi want Diaz, and Bayern want Diaz. And again, we don't have to sell to buy, and that's a great position to be in. And we're in control of Nunes' contract. We're in control of Diaz's contract. And if we don't come in the right offer, we're going to keep him. I mean, neither one of these players are going to give in subpar performances next season, despite wanting to leave. They've got a World Cup. They have a World Cup position on the line. So every single one of these players, Konate included, have to give 100% this season just to make it into the World Cup squad. So, it's a good position to be in. I like the player, and how many don't. And he's just, maybe because I'm a dad, and he's just so childlike. You just like, you get frustrated with him because you see he's got the potential, but then you just want to freaking ground him or smack him in the back of the head and just tell him to get his shit together. But yeah, he's just he's a conundrum.
Kenny, let's kind of flip over to the manager side of things with Darwin. Let's say Darwin decided, he had a chat with the family, he had a chat with his teammates, and he resolved, I want to give it one more year at Liverpool. I want to be a Liverpool hero, and I want to be the top scorer, and I want to compete with Salah and Ekatike, and I want to compete with Isak to be the top scorer every season. Has Slot shown enough to you to say that he may look at Darwin and go, okay, let's work with that? Or has he shown with the likes of Chiesa that he's quite ruthless and they go, yeah, I was done with you halfway through last season. Thanks, but no thanks. What do you think would happen in that sense?
I think, like Sergi said, if we get Isak, that's the end of Nunez, unfortunately, or fortunately for whoever side you're on. For me, I think Nunez and Liverpool knew Nunez was leaving towards the very end of the last year, with Slot coming out in the press conference and questioning Nunez's work ethic, and attitude, which, like we've all said, that's one thing. Before then, you could never question. And then I'm not sure if you guys caught it, but at one point he was tweeting or Instagram something about how Slot purposely didn't play him because once he reached X number of appearances, they owed an additional add-on. And then he deleted it quickly after it was posted. But that's the kind of stuff where you're not scoring goals and you're being a pain in the ass. You can't do both. You got to do one or the other. If you score 30 goals, tweet whatever you want. I don't care. Slot doesn't care. But if you're not scoring, you're not playing well, and you're being difficult. That's where I think the end of Nunez is. I think I think Nunez wants to go as well. I think he knows his time is up. I think he wants a new environment. Um, I don't think it would be. I don't think Slot would have a problem with Nunez as a squad player. I don't think I wouldn't have a problem with Nunez as a squad player. I do not see him getting a lot of minutes though, especially if we sell or if we sign Isaac. And if that's what he wants to do, I mean, power to him. I just can't see a world where it's worth it for either party. Is Liverpool going to turn down 50 million for a guy who's going to get 10 games? Is Nunez going to turn down a move to be the main man somewhere? Um, Not to, and this is going to sound like I'm being an ass, but I promise I really mean this. I think he'd be perfect for Newcastle and like a player in cash deal for Isak. I think he would go there and do well. Um, Less of a spotlight, maybe. Um, I, I I love Darwin. I've always been a Darwin apologist. I think there's certainly a player there. It's just for whatever reason, it's just not clicking with him at Liverpool. You can see him, and he's just as frustrated as we are. And I think that's like just compounding and compounding. The more frustrated, the more misses, the worse it gets. The more in his head he is, and then he just can never stop that spiral. I will say the clip of him and Slot last year losing their mind simultaneously when he got called for the foul. Oh, that's just great. It looks like a one of those edits you see on Instagram with them like linking the player and something else happening. It's perfect. Like you said, never can really doubt his passion and his desire to play. I just don't see it coming together enough for him to be the main guy at Liverpool. And I think we're looking to sign that main guy. Uh, so unless he's willing to stick around and be a bit part player, which to be honest, I don't think he should for his own career, his own sake. As much as I'd like it selfishly, I think it's time for both of us, the club and him, to part ways and move on.
Let me shift again because we'll see what happened with Darwin Núñez, but we'll start with Susie. Here's the question: is this the best summer transfer in the Premier League era? Not ever, but in the Premier League era. Do you have a better one? And what would you give it so far out of 10?
No, I think this is the best. I think all clubs included. I haven't seen a better transfer window. And it's not about how much you're spending. It's about strengthening the positions that we needed strengthened. Did we need a new right back? Yes, because we haven't had a right back since Nathaniel Klein. Did we need a left back? Yes, because Robertson, Klopp's run his legs off, so we strengthened there. Did we need an attacking midfielder? Yes, and we got that in Verts. Then we were Ekatiga. So we've strengthened every single position, even a goalkeeper. We've lost the best number 2 in the world, and we've replaced him with Marmalade, who everyone wanted based on his on the Euro performance, and what a great deal. Look at Man City; they still haven't got a decent goalkeeper. He would have been ideal for Man City, and we took him from under the noses for 35 mil, and and knowing how Alisson's injury record is so far, albeit with poor opponents, Marmalade shown that he can play in that position. I think the only position we have left to really strengthen is in defence as a centre back, and if we don't, and Konate stays, we're better with Konate in the team than without the team. And based on the conversations we've had today in regards to the formations, I think Gravenberch can easily slot in there. Endo has shown he can slot in there. And we get Isaac. It's just, like I say, it is embarrassing. You get Isaac, and it's just embarrassing. You buy any more players, it's just like playing FIFA against one of my kids. It's just no contest. Like So, and I don't, just thinking back to all the transfer windows, I don't think there's any club that have upgraded as much as we have in one transfer window. So it's definitely probably the best transfer window and the fact that we're not in debt over it, and we haven't broken any rules, and there's no charges. We're not going to be investigated. We don't have any oligarchs that are about to start war in another country over it. We're not, nothing. We've just done everything legit, probably to the detriment of Boston Red Sox, but I don't follow baseball, so I don't care.
What would you give it out of 10? A full 10?
11.
11, awesome stuff. With that, I like to see that inflation. Kenny, what say you? Is this the best summer transfer ever? Do you think there was a better one in the Premier League here? And what would you give it out of 10?
I was trying to think really hard just to be a pain in the ass to, argue with people. I can't think of anything better, to be honest. My only reservation, I would be a little concerned if we didn't sign a center back. I don't think it needs to be someone who comes in right away and they're starting center back and replaces Kanate. I would like to see a sign. I don't even have a name in mind. Someone young.
Do you mean like the Preston number 6 who scored the header against us?
Hey, could be.
We really want us to sign.
Or we could just really piss off Newcastle and sign Dan Burn. No, but I think relying on Gomez to stay fit is just never the best of plans. That being said, I'll give it, if I'm being brutally honest, a 9.9 with a center back of any type. I think I like Hato, but I'm pretty sure he's going to Chelsea is what I read today. Whoever that young center back would be to replace Kwanzaa, just to have a body there for reassurance more than anything. And I'll give it the 12 out of 10. But until that center back spot is filled, which I'm not that I don't think we're going to do that. I'm certain that's on our agenda. These guys seem to know what they're doing, have a plan in place. Yeah, I have a really hard time saying anything negative about it other than that. And like I said, I really tried to think of another team's transfer window. I struggled to think of one that's even close. Yeah, I got nothing.
Brian, what say you? Best summer transfer ever? What would you give it out of 10?
It's the best I remember. 10 out of 10. There's again, I kind of agree with what Kenny said right there. I still think that we still need to bring in a young center back in there. And I think that, and I'm okay with Kanate not signing and just leave him here, let him go free next year. That doesn't bother me. I think he's more useful for us right there being here and to sit out to go through this season. And then go back to Crystal Palace and buy Mark Goey for cheaper. To me, and that's my opinion on that.
For free next year.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, a lot cheaper. So again, right there, I think we're definitely seeing that. I can't remember anyone that off the top of my head right there that was really close to what this has been. We basically checked off almost every box that we needed to check off. As far as the players to fill the position. So, there's nowhere else to go. Even if we don't get Isaac right there, I still would think we're a 10 out of 10 because we did come in there and actually build upon what we needed to build upon.
Let me ask you three this. It's just a simple moral dilemma. If we're so rightfully hot on the transfer window so far, would you accept Isak tomorrow for the price that Newcastle wants, but Virgil van Dijk announces retirement the next day for injury or whatever? Or would you rather keep Virgil van Dijk and just not even ever get another chance at Isak? What say you?
I'll keep Virgil. He's irreplaceable. World-class strikers, they do. Even though they're rare, but we thought they have Haaland. There's always going to be players, up-and-coming players that always want to score goals. you know, but world-class defenders are a dime a dozen. I mean, the last Ballon d'Or defender that won anything was Cannavaro. So that pretty much says it all. Virgil, he just makes everyone around him a better player. He made Kelleher look a better keeper than maybe what he is. You know, he made Robertson an £8 million left back. You know, at his peak was probably worth 80, 100 mil. You know, he made 66 look world class, and now he's going to get found out in Spain. No, and he made Kwanzaa look like a 30 million player after 2 seasons. Like, no, Virgil's irreplaceable. I wouldn't swap any player in the world for Virgil.
Kenny, same.
Yeah, I mean, I got to look at his last season. We had no Isak. We had no striker that we liked. We walked the league. We would not have done that without Virgil. Or even, I don't think we would have competed, but I don't think so. Irreplaceable. I'm worried about when he does retire.
Yeah.
Brian, what say you? Same again? I mean, it seems very unanimous, doesn't it?
There's no moral dilemma at all. None whatsoever, right there. I mean, you don't replace leadership like that at all, like just like off the bat. So I mean, and I think he's established right there to be a leader. So yeah, I mean, I give up Isaac and, like, you know, for the rest of his career right there, to make sure that we have Van Dijk for the next 2 seasons.
I mean, to kind of tailgate on the previous discussion, it really is a measure of how good the summer transfer window is, that we could afford to give up a potential league-leading goal scorer in Isak, because the base is already so strong, and that we can be confident that if we can't score, we will score. But if we can't, we've got enough in the foundation to make sure the house stays standing. Jamie says goals win games and defense wins championships. No better phrase, I think. You can almost say that Virgil van Dijk is the Alan Hansen of Liverpool defenders, if you wanted to put it that way. So with that said, gentlemen, thank you so much for the discussion. Thank you to everybody for watching and commenting, especially our friends. And we have Jamie and Tony in the studios joining us, but also Trevor. Like us on Facebook. It's good to see Trevor, as always. We hope to see him back on these shores. I mean, on the internet shores here on our show at some point. And Dave Leslie, who always gives us a shout out as well. So that's good. But you too can give us shout outs and likes and all that if you do the correct thing for yourself and follow us on the YouTube and on the Facebook and on the Instagram and on Twitter or X, whatever it's called, Blue Sky, Mastodon, TikTok, and Yuri Geller's Telepathy Class 1977. All of those things work for us. But it remains to be said, is there a friendly this weekend? I don't even know what's going on with the friendlies. It's the
AC on Saturday morning.
Asian tour. What time is it on?
I think I can't remember what time it is on Eastern.
I want to say 10.
On Saturday or Sunday?
It might be 7 a.m. on.
Well, it's next week for Sir Z. He's going to have to play
7:30.
Our version of Tuesday.
7:30 a.m.
On Saturday, Sunday. Which one?
It's on Saturday, 4:30 a.m.
Okay.
PST. So.
Yep. 7:30 a.m.
Yeah, 7:30 for us normal
for
people.
normal people. Yeah.
For normal people, yeah. So that's fantastic. I'll actually get to watch that. Who'd have thought? I still have to work that day though. Yay! So Z, Kenny, Brian, thank you for joining us. Thank you for everybody for keeping up with the comments and watching us. And we shall see you soon. Keep an eye out for tomorrow morning for the coffee show and for maybe a watch along or some such thing for the AC Milan game. We're just curious to see how everybody does. It really doesn't matter what the score is. We're just so excited to see these players come out with the freshness that they're going to bring this next year's title challenge. And who knows, there might be a Daily Mirror exclusive. Liverpool thinking of bidding for Isak. Yeah, we'll get that close. We'll get that for like a week. Well, for everybody else, have a good one. Peace out. Here's the funky music. Enjoy your weekend.